Donald Trump is spiraling all morning as Iran's Navy continues to issue warnings to Donald Trump, to Israel, to foreign ships that think they'll be able to get through the Strait of Hormuz without IRGC Navy. Iran has made it clear, just like that Singaporean cargo ship yesterday that Iran was able to shoot and disable. Iran will continue to do that unless you get permission from the IRGC to go through the Strait of Hormuz. We're hearing that multiple vessels have turned around and are now seeking IRGC permission. It seems that Donald Trump this morning, for the first time, is now acknowledging that Iran was able to shoot at and disable that Singaporean cargo vessel yesterday. Here's what Donald Trump just posted. The Islamic Republic of Iran shot at least 4 one-way attack drones at ships traversing the Strait of Hormuz. One of the drones solidly hit the upper deck of a large and very expensive cargo carrying ship. Damage was done, but the ship was able to proceed on its way. We knocked down 3 other drones. Obviously, this is a foolish violation of our ceasefire agreement. Donald J. Trump. Notably, CENTCOM did not acknowledge this yesterday. Donald Trump did not acknowledge this yesterday. Donald Trump gave that deranged speech to farmers where he said that Iran no longer has a navy and that U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz. And Donald Trump is also lying by saying that the cargo ship was able to continue out of the Strait of Hormuz. That is false. Then Donald Trump just started panic posting. Other polls have my approval at 65% and more. Like journalists, honest pollsters are very rare and hard to find. And he claims that his approval 65%. His approval right now is 30%, and it's heading into the 20s. Then he's posting this morning. For all of those who like to say that Barack Hussein Obama and his vice president Sleepy Joe Biden did as many criminal ICE removals as President Trump, the figures are just in. Number 1, they included hundreds of thousands of people that never came close to getting into our country. What are you talking about this morning? Then he attacks European countries and he says he's going to tariff them 100% if they apply their digital service tax on American companies. Numerous European countries have been discussing the imminent implementation of the digital services tax. Some of these countries are close to actually doing this. Please let this statement serve to represent that any country who imposes such a tax will immediately be met with a 100% tariff. Nobody takes you seriously anymore, Donald. You threaten on social media, ceasefire violation, 100% tariff, this and that. You tank the economy, you destroy global stability, then you back down. You put America in a weaker position than ever before. And just like that state fair that you're doing right now in Washington, D.C., that's a complete disaster and nobody is attending, you can't accomplish the most basic tasks, yet alone anything that has some degree of complexity. And now we're also learning this morning, although we've been reporting about it from some time, it's visual confirmation from this Wall Street Journal investigation about how the Iranian missiles and drone attacks during the war caused major damages to all of the U.S. air bases in the Middle East, such that the United States is basically thinking now about abandoning its military bases in the region. Major damage was caused to the U.S. Navy's base in Bahrain, including the 5th Fleet headquarters, communication facilities, warehouses, and support buildings, which the Pentagon was covering up. The Pentagon's like, yeah, it's minimal vulnerabilities. Everything's going well. The damage at Bahrain alone is estimated to cost about $400 million to rebuild, while the total damage to U.S. bases is likely in the $2 billion range. Look at Camp Arjifan in Kuwait. You can see right here the air base in the United Arab Emirates, Al Dhafra. You can see Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. All of the U.S. bases in the region were obliterated. Oh, by the way, you remember yesterday when Marco Rubio said, Oman says that they're not going to be allowing any tolls or fees to be charged for ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz. Oman has told us that. No, Oman has actually said the opposite. Oman has been warning European allies that the Strait of Hormuz will not return to its pre-war status quo, signaling potential new transit fees for ships. Iran and Oman have formed this joint toll operation that is announced they will be charging. And so yesterday, you had Foreign Minister Araghchi of Iran speak with the Foreign Minister of Oman. They confirmed, this is what we reported here. And yes, Rubio, when he was there in the Middle East, was once again lying. Shocker, the Trump regime basically views the MOU as something to be manipulated, lied about, and changed. They don't view it as a deal. Iran knows that. That's why Iran's making sure it extracts its benefits under the deal first. Here is what Rubio said yesterday, which was directly contradicted by what Oman has said yesterday and today. Here, let's play this clip.
Is the current bilateral relationship with Oman now in a good place? And are you convinced they're not playing games with respect to that issue?
I mean, our relationship with Oman is fine. I mean, ultimately, there's not going to be any fees or tolls. There's not going to be any, and they've signed, you know, they were there in the meeting today, and they said it, that they're not in favor of a tolling system. So that's good. I'm glad to hear them say that.
I do have to ask, because it's just a few weeks ago.
And so just so you see how the Trump regime is behaving and how their kind of sycophant on Capitol Hill are behaving, this is MAGA Republican Congress member Mark Alford, and he's kind of regurgitating these Trump regime lines, and CNN asks him, so, you know, the MOU says this, the MOU says that, to which the MAGA Republican congressman says, yeah, but the MOU really isn't a deal. It's like a framework. It's like a starting point for negotiations. Wrong. It is a binding short form agreement with obligations, and the long form is not a new negotiation. It is the implementation of the terms of the MOU. The new terms aren't going to contradict it. What this whole process has exposed, I think, which we've all known, is that Trump, MAGA, and all of these people, they are predators. They lie about everything. They don't keep to their word. They never keep to contracts. They never keep to deals. All it is a massive manipulation gambit to steal and to loot from all of us. That's their plan. Just watch what Alfred has to say. Play this clip.
The memorandum itself says that after this negotiating period, Oman and Iran will get together to figure out how to administer the Strait. How do you feel about Iran administering the Strait of Hormuz?
It doesn't excite me one bit. And that's why this MOU is a framework. It is an outline. If you were writing a story, John, you would start with an outline, and then the negotiations fill in the details and start writing the script. That's what the State Department, along with our negotiators, are doing. And again, I'm trusting the process. Look, we are much better off than we were a year and a week ago. It was just this week we had the first anniversary of the strike from Whiteman Air Force Base in my district, the B-2 stealth bombers. I was there in New York with you right before that, and we were talking about this. And we are in a much better position trying to make sure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. It's going to take a little more work. We're going to get there, but I'm trusting the process.
I will say, a year ago, the Strait of Hormuz was open and had been open. Yes. Now it's tenuous, so it's a little bit different there. Congressman.
And by the way, Alfred's new line, this is the official Republican position right now. Now, I showed you this video earlier this morning, right, where J.D. Vance said, there's a bit of a renaissance right now of Richard Nixon. People are looking back and saying the crimes that Nixon committed weren't really crimes, and they wouldn't even make a dent in the modern day news cycle with everything going on with Donald Trump. What was so bad about Watergate and Nixon's behavior and cover up? So could we just get past that? Nixon is our North Star, not Reagan anymore. That's what, remember what J.D. Vance said? That's what the Republicans are now echoing today, that Watergate was not a big deal. Watch Congressmember Alfred play this clip.
Well, look, John, I was actually a young child and watched the Watergate hearings while the rest of my family was enjoying pitching washers at our family reunion outside. That's how much I was into it. But you got to remember back then, I think the point that the vice president was making is that now we live in an age of information where we are bombarded daily, hourly, instantly on our phones and through CNN and other news outlets. And the stories that are breaking every day. Look at the release of the Tulsi Gabbard files right before she left. That didn't get a lot of play, and yet there's some substantive things, even if you don't believe that those things actually happened with Fauci, that need to be investigated, that need to be discussed in the American zeitgeist. But we are moving so rapidly that a story like Watergate, I don't think would last as long as it did back in the 1970s when I was a young child.
But what we hear a lot of these MAGA Republicans doing now is what we hear from Carlos Jimenez, MAGA Republican from Florida. And he's like, you know, these Democrats, they're not just socialists, they're fascists. They're like the Nazis right now. That's what they're like. Yeah. So as we head to the midterms, these MAGA Republicans shut down the House of Representatives, right? I mean, we don't have a functioning House. It's basically the functional equivalent of the Russian Duma. And now we get the fear mongering, the division, you know, all of these attacks when the Trump regime with ICE and Border Patrol, Gestapo, I mean, it's literally the SS that they brought us. I mean, look at your behavior, right? And here they play this clip of Congress member Jimenez so you can hear for yourself. Let's play it.
By the way, what happened in New York and those supposed Democrat socialists, no, they're not. They're actually fascists wrapped around socialism. And there are some images coming out of New York that are frightening to me. Yeah. Things that I've seen, I've seen images like that, back in the 30s in Germany. Yeah. And so this is what's happening now to the.
Also, you just see that, no country takes the United States seriously anymore. North Korea bragging about its nuclear arsenal and testing its upgraded artillery and missile systems. Remember under former President Obama, when North Korea and Kim Jong-un would do like a missile test, it would be like, man, doesn't that show how weak Obama is? And that would be like a major story. Now they brag about their nuclear arsenal and, you don't hear a peep from the media. And you've got J.D. Vance bragging that what we do on every single day is not even anywhere near Watergate. Nobody cares about it anymore. Here you have Republican Congress member Thomas Massey saying that one ironic thing about this Trump regime saying that there's all this election fraud out there. Republicans, we control every branch of government. Here it's true. Here, play this clip.
I'll vote for the SAVE Act, but I think it's a distraction from our real problems. I think it's ironic that we control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the White House, and we're yelling election fraud. I mean, we won all the damn elections.
And then, of course, you have the MAGA Republican senators like David McCormick out there basically saying, the reason why the economy's not doing good right now on June 26, 2 years into the Trump regime, Biden, we inherited something that was so bad. No, you actually inherited a Goldilocks economy with a manufacturing boom and things were heading in the right direction. Watch what he has to say. Let's play this clip.
A lot of people don't really realize what a horrible economy Trump inherited. Terrible. Highest inflation in 40 years. We could go on and on. So it's going to be tough. Now, I want to drill down a little bit more on Iran. Because
also you have Iran's top joint military command in the IRGC saying that military aircraft belonging to Israel had been operating through the airspace of some neighboring countries, calling the movement a dangerous act and a threat against the Islamic Republic. It said that if the United States was unable to restrain Israel, Iran would not tolerate any threat against itself and reserve the right to respond to those actions. Also, you had Iran's Deputy Minister Gharibabadi, right? Safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz with ambiguous arrangements, parallel routes, or decision-making outside of Iran's considerations as the coastal states cannot be guaranteed. Any credible framework must be based on coordination with Iran and the provisions of the paragraph 5 of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. Otherwise, the outcome will be the suspension of the designated parallel route. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.